episode.
Oh yeah, it's called long drop, short rope. So yeah, I'm sure the YouTube censors are going to love this one.
Long drop with a short stop.
Yeah. That might be better actually. I think I'm going to rename it for YouTube. Long drop, short
Long
stop.
drop with a sudden stop.
Long drop, quick stop. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah. I think Jeremy Clarkson mentioned saying so. He says, look, speeding doesn't cause any harm. It's when you suddenly come to a stop, that's when the injuries occur. Although, when you crash into a tree from 90 miles an hour...
I always maintain it's not so much people who are speeding that cause the accidents, it's the people that are going slow in front of them.
Yeah.
Good evening, welcome to another Fortean Words. Hobbit's phoning from his deathbed. Which more than Fraser will do.
Well, Fraser shared some of his methadone with me tonight, so I'm just having a nice nap in bed. But I thought I'd phone in and say hello, people.
I was, before I came up, I was watching a bit of that documentary about, you heard that one about that Natalia? She was like a midget Romanian.
I just want to qualify saying here, I'm not saying that Fraser's a drug addict and therefore he's got a methadone prescription. I'm saying he's Scottish and therefore he's got methadone.
I think you get it. Is it like that dividend that all Alaskans get? Is it like that? Is that like the Scottish dividend?
You see, the Scots benefit from the English taxpayer, so they get free tuition, free NHS prescriptions, free dentist work, and free methadone.
Yeah.
So when you're 16, they just send you a prescription in the post.
Yeah, you're going to love the sound quality on this one, Hobbit, because you were just red constantly on the desktop all day.
I was listening back to an episode called Me, Myself and Hobbit, and it literally sounds like this all the time when I'm talking. I apologise to the listener. I like it when my level's the same as Hemmy's.
Speaking of listeners, I went on to the Fortean Words on Apple Podcasts, and yes, you can watch us on Apple Podcasts. For some reason, we haven't been verboten on there.
They changed it from iTunes podcast to Apple.
I don't know. It's just whatever Apple's is. I think it's iTunes.
Play the Tony Hart Gallery music. Do 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 do. Do 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 Tony Hart. And this one's from Claire, and she's 7 3/4 years old.
Oh,
and it's like all
the novel tone bank too. Is it this one, Hobbit?
Any second now?
Can you hear it now?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
I'll turn it down a bit so it's not overpowering us. So,
not read the review.
We've got some reviews. Oh no, that's beer on my keyboard. That's not very good.
Oh dear.
So anyway, we've got Hobbit a whole 2.5 out of 5 on Apple.
Hey, well, you know what? That is better than nothing out of 5.
Yeah. So we get 4 stars. 4 stars from a user called Low on Credit. He says, enjoying this, essentially a radio show is a podcast, and it's good. If you don't mind unpolished content, coughs and all, and like paranormal shows, give this a try.
Hey, the cough meters take away from the authenticity.
Next, never stop! ! From Samuel H84. He says, a very British and funny, entertaining look at Fortean and conspiracy subjects. And then 3 years ago, from this review is headed Poor, from Tom DeCarp. He says, if you're going to do a podcast, at least do your research before recording, or at least sound convincing.
No. No.
Does he have to use at least so many times?
The researching
is he a journalist? Is he a journalist? Is that why he's used at least twice?
Our unique selling point is we do the research as we go along, and you can hear me getting.
We'll talk about the subjects, then the listener can do the research. We're like one of those art projects, where you have to make your mind up what the art project is.
Well, we always welcome use of submissions from Claire, who's 3 1/4 years old, and beautiful drawing for horse.
Yeah.
It always amazed me. It's like she's like 7 years old and she can draw better than I will be able to as a full-fledged adult.
Mm.
And it's always horses.
There was some. So anyway, so we're talking about. I think it's quite obvious what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the Tyburn Jig, or the Spandau Ballet, as it's called.
Yes.
But obviously, if you're doing it properly, there's none of that nonsense. It's just
yeah.
Because we'll talk about Pierpoint in a little while. But his thing was, it went from going into the cell to the drop 12 seconds. Was he got what he got it down to?
Like, I don't understand how that. Right, because I've seen Shrewsbury prison, and they've got like a execution room in the condemned cell.
Mm.
You're going to take at least a minute to open up the cell door, get the condemned in there, give him a pint of gin, back when they used to give the condemned a strong drink, and then march them to the room, put the head in the noose. No, it takes more than 12 seconds.
Well, that's what he says. We'll get to that later anyway when we talk about Pierpoint.
Yeah.
First of all, just talk about two. I mean, are you aware of the so-called "Let Him Have It" case?
No.
It's quite a famous hanging. Well, not so much a hanging. It's quite a famous. People say it's a miscarriage of justice. Was it? Wasn't it? Nobody knows. So let's start the crime and work backwards and see what you think to this thing.
Is it the one where it's the implicit versus explicit speech? And let him have it. It could mean two things. One could be like it. Pride is, whereas explicit,
shoot him or let him have the gun.
The explicit being is let him have the firearm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start with the crime. On the night of Sunday, the 2nd of November, 1952, Bentley and a 16-year-old... Oh, so what's that, 70 years? 3 years ago. 70 years. It was, since it happened. 1952, Bentley and a 16-year-old companion, Christopher Craig, broke into the warehouse of the Barlow and Parker Confectionery Company at 27 to 29 Tamworth Road, Croydon. Craig armed himself with a Colt New Service 455 Webley. So 1952, there would have been a lot of post-war fire. That's what most of the firearms were, weren't they? They were like war trophies and things like that, weren't they?
Yeah, and they weren't all rounded up and seized, so there was still quite a lot of them doing the rounds.
The barrel of which he had shortened so it could easily be carried in his pocket. He also carried a number of undersized rounds for the revolver, some of which he had modified by hand to fit the gun. Fucking hell, we got a child prodigy here.
Undersized rounds.
Undersized rounds? They'd go fucking anywhere then, wouldn't they? If they're rattling around in the barrel on the way out.
Well, it's so the Webley revolver. It's a break action, so you can break it apart. You put the cartridges in the cylinder. I'm just trying to think, what does he mean by undersized? Is he packs them with less gunpowder, or does he mean that they're narrower? Because if they're narrower, then it's just like, well,
that's what I mean. They're just going to rattle around the barrel, and they're going to come out at any old angle, aren't they? Plus he's sawing it off as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's not exactly saying you're going to take to...
So, to be fair, that lad did well shooting that copper, because there's every chance that he could have fucking missed by a mile. So if he's shortened it, there's obviously no iron sights on it. There's no iron sights on it. The bullet, I mean, obviously I'm no firearms expert, so I'm just assuming that the bullet had just rattled around in there and come out at a weird angle.
All I'm thinking is the undersized bit, because I mean, if he because he doesn't sound that incompetent, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, but why would you shorten the cartridge and put less propellant in it?
I think
It's,
undersized to me would be smaller caliber. Because, like you're saying, it's
yeah,
brake action. So all you're doing is putting a hammer on the percussion, and then it just flies out the end, doesn't it? It's not like a cartridge. It's not like a magazine, spring loaded magazine or anything, is it?
well, you, yeah, you can put slightly smaller bullets in it. Like I've heard the 357 Magnum, like they use in America. You can put 38 bullets in there.
Yeah.
They will fit, but the 38 doesn't have the same amount of force. So maybe that's what he means by undersized. Like, I think some gun historian will say, "Oh, well, the Webley takes this round
Well,
of
it says
British."
it's a Colt News Service .455 Webley.
Oh, I thought you meant the Webley Mark IV. That's the fire.
The
The
firearm
sidearm.
is a Colt News Service, so it is your regular revolver, but
And
it's a
so 454.
.455.
Oh, 0.455. I've never heard of 0.455. Why is
Yeah.
that? Because you see, 454 is called the Castle, and that's an American bullet.
Yeah.
0.4. Well, anyway, we're getting we're trees for the weeds.
Yeah.
Forest
So
for the
anyway,
trees.
he put these weird bullets in it. Bentley carried a knuckle duster which he had been given by Craig, who had been fined the previous year for possessing a firearm without a certificate. But still,
Is it just me?
that's not written very well, is it?
Knuckle dusters look really uncomfortable to use. So I don't.
Yeah, I imagine they'd hurt you just as much as the bloke you're punching, wouldn't they?
Is it one of those things like you put it on this like, now this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you?
Yeah. So around 9:15 p.m, neighbours called the police after spotting Craig and Bentley climbing over the gate and up a drain pipe to the roof of the warehouse. Obviously, master criminals, these lads are. When police arrived, Craig and Bentley hid behind the lift housing. Craig taunted the police. One of the officers, Detective Constable Frederick Fairfax of the Yard, climbed the drain pipe to the roof and grabbed hold of Bentley, but Bentley broke free. What happened to this then is uncertain. Police witnesses later claimed that Fairfax ordered Craig to hand over the gun, lad, and Bentley shouted, "Let him have it, Chris." Craig fired, striking Fairfax in the shoulder. Fairfax was nonetheless able to restrain Bentley, who told Fairfax that Craig had further ammunition for the gun. Bentley had not used either weapons in his pockets.
Well, it's a case of, you see, on the one hand, I'd be like, well, it's mistaken miscommunication. Obviously, the other fleeing.
So we're not finished yet, Hobbit. We're not finished yet. A group of uniformed. I weren't reading that properly. It was like uninformed police officers, but no, it's uniformed police officers were sent to the roof. The first to reach the roof was Police Constable Sidney Miles, who was immediately killed by a shot to the head. After exhausting his ammunition and being cornered, Craig jumped 30 feet, 10 metres from the roof, onto a greenhouse, fracturing his spine and left wrist, and had to remain in hospital. So, master criminals, these pair. Okay, I kind of get why this is quite controversial. So we'll go on to the trial next. Both Craig and Bentley were charged with murder of PC Miles the following day. So their doctrine of felony murder or constructive malice meant that the charge of manslaughter was not an option, as the malicious intent of the armed robbery was transferred onto the shooting. They were tried by jury before Lord Chief Justice Lord Goddard at the Old Bailey in London between the 9th of December and 11th of December 1952. Christmas Humphreys, Senior Treasury Counsel, led for the prosecution. How would you feel being prosecuted by Christmas Humphreys?
It's a boy. What will be his Christian name? Oh, Christmas.
Yeah.
No. You can't call him Christmas. That's the Mass of Christ. Oh, we'll call him Candlemas then.
Yeah.
Candlemas Hastings. Fairbanks. You say his name, Fairbanks.
Humphreys.
Harvest Festival, Humphreys.
Yeah. At the time of the burglary and Miles' death, murder was a capital offence in England and Wales. The Children and Young Persons Act 1933 prevented the execution of those under 18. Consequently, of the two defendants, despite Craig having fired the fatal shot, only Bentley faced the death penalty if convicted. So this is where it gets a bit controversial. Bentley's best defence was that he was effectively under arrest when Miles was killed. There were three principal points of contention at the trial. Firstly, the defence claimed there was ambiguity in the evidence as to how many shots were fired and by whom. Later, forensic ballistics expert cast doubt on whether Craig could have hit Miles if he had shot him deliberately. A fatal bullet was not found. Craig had used bullets of different undersized calibers in the sawn-off barrel, made it inaccurate to a degree of 6 feet from the range in which he fired. So that's what I said then. So it must be undersized calibers. So they're like, the bullets were small, so they were just bouncing around inside the chamber before they came out at whatever degree.
Turning it into a shotgun, but with one pellet.
Yeah. So secondly, there was controversy over the existence and meaning of Bentley's alleged instruction to Craig. Let him have it, Chris. Craig and Bentley denied that Bentley had said the words, while the police officers testified that he'd said them. Further, Bentley's counsel argued that even if he had said the words, it could not be proven that Bentley had intended the words to mean the informal meaning of shoot him, Chris, instead of the literal meaning of give him the gun, Chris, which is 100% correct.
I'd almost be like, in what tone did you use? Just like, let him have it, or no, better let him have it then.
Give it to the slag.
Give him your shooter.
Yeah. So thirdly, there was disagreement over whether Bentley was fit to stand trial. I'll do some more about Bentley in a minute.
And unto the constable, the aforementioned.
Was fit to stand trial in light of his mental capacity. The principal medical officer responsible was Dr. Matheson, and he referred Bentley to Dr. Hill, a psychiatrist at the Maudsley Hospital. Harry Hill's report stated that Bentley was illiterate and of low intelligence, what today could be described as having learning difficulties. However, Matheson...
Hang on, Harry Hill described this.
Well, it was Dr. Hill, and Harry Hill was a GP, so it could possibly have been Harry Hill that actually did it.
So Dr. Harry Hill said, I don't know if this revolver can shoot a policeman. Only one way to find out.
Did Derek Bentley do this? There's only one way to find out. Let him have it.
Oh, we're joking about a murder, allegedly.
We're joking about somebody with an IQ of 66 being executed.
Hang on. As this case is over and done with, do we have to use the qualifier of allegedly?
Andy's dead, so no, we don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying allegedly a murder because
slander him as much as you like. I bet he's dead.
Oh, he was a nonce, and he wiped his bogies on the lamb.
He had an IQ of 66, so it was possible, Hobbit.
What were you saying? He dribbles out long slots. I've got to stop. He sneezes on the butcher's display.
Oh no! His sleeve looks like he had a family of slugs living on it.
Oh, he's a dribbler.
Yeah. So Hill's reports.
He goes to the greengrocers and he sort of glazes all the broccoli.
Yeah. What today would be described as having learning difficulties. However, Matheson was of the opinion that whilst agreeing that Bentley was of low intelligence, he did not have epilepsy at the time of the alleged offence.
Yeah, but like,
what's that going to do? Why do they make out like epilepsy is like retardation now?
Oh, I don't know, but I mean, just so I'm clear on this one. So the 66 IQ imbecile is the one who's modifying firearms to the point where they're no longer.
See, what you've got to remember is we've got a copper's dead, so we're going to have to hang someone. Obviously, the criminal genius Craig, who uses just any old bullets in a gun and shoots coppers. Obviously, we can't. Because he's under the age of 18, we can't actually hang him, so we're just going to have to hang his, like, retarded mate.
Oh well, yeah, fair enough. Maybe it's like, look, we can't hang him for sneezing on the minced meat, but we can hang him for being the accomplice of a burglary that's armed.
We can't stop him murdering people because he obviously never murdered anybody in the first place, but we can stop him sneezing in butchers' shops.
We can stop him being a dribbler in public. This was back when we were evil in an empire and were practicing eugenics and like killing off 66 IQ undesirables, which, these days would be a champion of the community and be doing a improvised theatre play.
I've got to read what the Mental Deficiency Act is, because that's pretty based. However, Matheson was opinion whilst agreeing Bentley was of low intelligence, he did not have epilepsy at the time of the alleged offence, and he was not a feeble-minded person under the Mental Deficiency Act. Do you know about the Mental Deficiency Act of 1913, Hobbit?
All right. So I want to know how this epilepsy sort of goes. Were they saying he had a fit and then that's why he shot the gun?
No, because he wasn't even holding the gun. It was Craig that held the gun.
Oh, right, but epilepsy gives imbeciles telekinetic powers to make others do crimes.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to argue in court. So the Mental Deficiency Act was an act of Parliament in the United Kingdom creating provisions for the institutional treatment of people deemed to be feeble-minded and moral defectives. People deemed mentally defective under this act could be locked up indefinitely in a mental deficiency colony, despite not being diagnosed. Are you loving the language of this act, Hobbit?
I'm just wondering, is the mental deficiency colony the Punjab or somewhere?
Despite not being diagnosed with any mental illness or disability or committing any crime. Basically, you just go, yeah, you're... So basically, like wokies now, you could just go, yeah, you can't. So oh my god, the long title of this, Hobbit, is an act to make further and better provision for the care of feeble-minded and other mentally defective persons, and to amend the lunacy acts.
So in other words, it's like, look, you're too fit to tie your own shoelaces, therefore you can't live in adult society. We're going to have to take care of you.
Have you heard of Humphrey's brother, Hobbit? He's International Talk Like a Pirate Day, Humphreys.
Oh, I was going to say, isn't it Easter Humphreys?
Easter Humphreys.
Christmas Humphreys, Easter Humphreys, Advent Humphreys.
Yeah, Whitsun. Would Whitsun be his sister? I think Whitsun would be his sister, wouldn't she?
Or maybe she's called Midsummer. Humphreys.
Midsummer Humphreys.
Yeah. Or maybe the pagan side of the family. You got like Solstice Humphreys and
Samhain.
Yeah, and Equinox Humphreys.
Equinox, yeah.
Beltane Humphreys.
So, the jury took 75 minutes to decide that both Craig and Bentley were guilty of Miles' murder, with a plea of mercy for Bentley. So, obviously, they're like, yeah, he didn't shoot the gun, carry the gun, or just throw any old bullets in it, but, so he doesn't really deserve to hang. So, what did they do? They said, yeah, he needs to hang for this. We need a body. We need a dead body for this dead copper.
Did the prosecutor say, Your Honour, look at this dribbler. Go on, stick his head in the noose. It'll be a laugh. Just out of curiosity, when people said to Mr. Humphreys, "Merry Christmas," would he get confused, or would he take it in the spirit?
Like if he was a grump, if he was a grump, would his office nickname be Merry Christmas?
Or maybe they'd start calling him Scrooge. Saying bar humbug to people.
Yeah. You boy, what day of the year it is? Does that make his birthday Christmas Day? So we
So instead of saying we wish you a Merry Christmas, are you going to say Happy Birthday, Christmas Humphreys?
Yeah. Pancake Tuesday. Oh, we've got the black sheep of the family, Pancake Tuesday Humphreys.
Oh yeah, Shrove Tuesday Humphreys.
Yeah.
Or what about Guy Fawkes Humphreys?
Yeah.
Got my Guy Fawkes Knight Humphreys.
Yeah. Guy Fawkes Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Long old name, that, isn't it?
I was going to say, that's a triple-barrelled name, that one.
So, the appeal was turned down. Bentley's life was placed in the hands of Home Secretary David Maxwell Fyfe, who had to decide whether to recommend that the Crown exercise the royal prerogative to mercy to commute his death sentence to life imprisonment. Lord Goddard forwarded the jury's recommendation of mercy, but added that he himself could find no mitigating circumstances other than the fact that the guy who actually shot the gun was too young to hang. That he didn't shoot the gun. And in fact, he said, let him have it. And we still don't know what intonation was used when he said, let him have it.
So the dribbler said, let him have it. And then the one who's too young to be prosecuted was like, okay, I'm going to proceed to do a murder now with this firearm.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work.
I'm just going to play Russian roulette with these coppers' lives instead of my own.
So, with the person below 18, did they like wait until he's 18 and arrest him, or what?
No, they still try. I think they still tried him, but they just didn't. Whatever.
So what? He goes to Borstal for 2 years, and then what goes to prison?
Yeah. Actually, it doesn't. There is no. Funny enough, there's no actual. There's no Wikipedia on Christopher Craig, which is a weird, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was just I was hoping there'd be sort of primary sources, and that they make the Wikipedia articles with. I imagine like Wikipedia, especially on the subject like this, is a bit they're only telling one side of the story. So let me see if I can find this Christopher Craig.
I think you're gonna have to, Hobbit, because my thing's not typing properly because it's got beer in it now.
Oh dear. Oh no, so when I type in Christopher Craig, the first thing that comes up is Derek Bentley.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a website called murderpedia.org.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and that's really well formatted, and that's horrifically
that's like a good old fashioned.
Is there a way I can put this into dark mode? No, there's not. Oh, this is horrible.
You can't even speed read it.
It's not easy. Well, that's what I was trying to find the option on my phone, but I don't see it. I tell you what, reading like a light blue background with dark text is not good when you're on Madfwaz's heroin, morphine, methadone. That's it. I'll get it right eventually.
I ain't got anything handy to clean this keyboard. Basically, I'm pressing delete, and random letters and numbers come up. Yeah,
you might have to say goodbye to that keyboard. I was cleaning my keyboard, and I've had the same one since 2006, and it died when I spilt a bit of isopropyl alcohol on it.
No, I've spilt Coke on it before, and it was fine, I think.
You might be lucky. I mean, if you hang it over a radiator and let it dry out, you might be all right.
Yeah, I'll just put it face down for a bit.
Well, I got a bit here about Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the same bit here where it's saying, Craig, who was armed with a revolver, opened fire, grazing Fairfax's shoulder. Yeah. Nevertheless, Fairfax arrested Bentley, who said to have told him that Craig had plenty of ammunition for his Colt New Service 4.455 Ely caliber revolver. I've never heard of an Ely caliber revolver.
Yeah, there's a whole Wikipedia page about the caliber.
Yeah, because I mean that's new to me, and I watched like Forgotten Weapons and stuff. So anyway, yeah, he says he had a variety of undersized rounds. some which he had to modify to fit the gun. Yeah, right. So we got.
Obviously,
So anyway,
I think he must have been about 66 IQ as well, mustn't he? Just shaving down fucking rounds.
well, it doesn't seem like the most safe thing you can do, really. I mean, at that point, it's like you may as well just make a pipe gun. So the various medals were awarded to several participating police officers.
So Christopher Craig was 17, Hobbit.
Yeah, so posthumously, a medal was awarded to Miles, and the George Cross was awarded to Fairfax. So, got legal proceedings now. Let's see if it differs from what you're reading. Craig would have not faced execution if found guilty, as he was below the age of 18 when PC Miles was shot. Bentley, on the other hand, was not. The trial took place before the Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales, Lord Goddard, at the Old Bailey in London between the 9th of December 1952 and the 11th of December 1952. The doctrine of constructive malice meant the charge of manslaughter was not an option. We said that bit, as the malicious intent of the armed robbery was transferred to the shooting.
Basically, so if you want some more on Christopher Craig, so Christopher Craig was 16 and spent his time watching crime movies and reading crime comics. In his mind, he was an American hoodlum. By contrast, Derek Bentley was aged 18 but had a mental age of around 8 years old. On the 2nd November 1952, the two teenage boys, blah blah blah, Webley, blah blah blah. They were both extremely inept criminals. Their attempt to rob the factory warehouse was thwarted, which we know. PC Miles, Dixon and Doc Green. Oh, that's
Isn't that a fictitious, like show like Columbo?
Yeah. So they're saying that PC Miles was a cop of the Dixon and Doc Green mould. So that's what. Now come on, right, son, don't be silly. Hand that over. I don't know if you've ever seen Dixon and Doc Green, but he was always very condescending and talked to people like they were retarded.
But this paragraph here sort of goes on to that bit about talking about Bentley. English law at the time did not recognise the concept of diminished responsibility due to retarded development, though it existed in Scottish law. It was introduced to England by the Homicide Act of 1957. Criminal insanity, where the accused is unable to distinguish right from wrong, was the only medical defence to murder. Bentley, while suffering severe debilitation, was not insane. The jury took 75 minutes to decide that both Bentley and Craig were guilty of PC Miles's murder. Bentley was sentenced to death with a plea for mercy on the 11th of December 1952, while Craig was ordered to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure. He was eventually released in 1963 after 17 years.
How about this one then? Here's a bit here I found buried in here. So, this was postponed to allow an appeal. Derek's legal team found several anomalies in the ballistic evidence. Chrissy's gun was extremely inaccurate after 6 feet. The calibre of the bullets was in question, and the fatal bullet was never found. PC Miles could well have been shot by one of the other police officers and not by Christopher at all.
Yeah, and the bit was saying where they couldn't find the bullet lodged inside him. That almost makes me feel like someone's had a word with the coroner and just say, "Oh, I'll have that. Yeah, best give that to me.
Just lose
I'll look after that." Yeah.
So it is a bit dodgy. I don't think there's any moral way that you could say that Bentley deserved to hang for it, because he didn't pull the trigger. You know, he obviously probably easily led. Are we going to say about him?
I mean, the only way you could sort of justify that is just saying, well, look, we're practicing eugenics, and because he's a dribbler, he's going to be put out of his misery. And he's been shown to, like, have... Some people could say, oh, well, give him social workers, but the others would be just like, look, if you don't do this, he's going to rip radiators off of walls and, like, bash open refrigerators until he's got that frozen pizza in his gob.
Yeah.
So maybe it'd just be doing everybody a favour if we just took him out the back and, gave him
it does kind of... It does seem like the government's decided they're going to ask for... Oh, here we go. I found some of it. Craig had been firing from a distance of just under 40 feet and had used a variety of undersized 41 and 45 calibre rounds in his revolver.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Again, sort of like, oh well, they'll fit. That'll do.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
so what they're saying? Oh, this is quite interesting. So there's 1971 book called "Encourage the Others," which is by a fellow called David Yallop. So, Yallop asserted it would have been impossible for him to use a bullet of 38 or smaller caliber. Haler did not offer in his trial evidence any estimate of the size of the bullet that killed Miles. In July 1970, during an interview with Yallop, Craig accepted the bullet that killed Miles came from his gun, but maintained that all of his shots were fired over the rear garden of a house adjacent to the warehouse. Okay, so he just could have killed someone else then, that's fine. Approximately 20 degrees the right of Miles' location from where Craig had been firing. The standard Metropolitan Police pistol at the time was the .32 caliber Webley automatic, a number of which were issued on this night. In his book, The Scientific Investigation of Crime, the prosecution's ballistic expert, Lewis Nichols, stated he recovered 4 bullets from the roof, 2 .45s, 1 .41 and 1 .32. The last was not entered as an exhibit in the trial, nor mentioned in Nichols' evidence to the court.
Oh, that's convenient.
So, like we're saying,
I mean,
maybe trigger happy cop.
If we're going to be honest about this, we say, look, it's death by misadventure, but I put it to the court that I don't like Mr. Bentley, and he should be hung until he's dead because, look, you know, he's not going to amount to much.
We've got a dead copper. We've got a dead copper. We really need to even the scales a bit. I think he's what it amounts to, isn't it?
We got a dead copper, and if it wasn't for these two miscreants, we would have had a live copper. So can we put the dribbler down because the other one's not of age?
Yeah. So eventually on 30th of July 1998, the Court of Appeal quashed Bentley's conviction for murder. However, Bentley's sister Iris had died of cancer the year before. Her daughter, Maria Bentley Dingwall, who was born 10 years after Derek Bentley's execution, continued the campaign after her mother's death. Christopher Craig, by then aged 62, born in May 1936, issued a statement welcoming the pardon for Bentley, stating that his innocence had now been proved. He also apologised to the families of both Miles and Bentley for his actions, as well as his own family for the press intrusion they'd suffered over the years.
What were they intending to do an armed robbery of? They're like, it's like, hey, fill up as many of the farthing chews as possible. Oh, I want some of those flying saucers with the sherbet. Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine doing a heist for like 2 tons of sherbet?
Pure uncut Colombian sherbet.
Yeah, you know, lemon scented sherbet. Oh. I tell you what, you know, like I'm trying to think of that famous British actress who's got no septum. I'd be like that with the sherbet. I've got no teeth at the end of it. They're just all rotted into little stumps. Oh, just all that sherbet.
There is a 1991 film that's got Christopher Eccleston in it as Bentley.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine it wasn't too hard for Christopher Eccleston to get into that role.
You think he's ripe for the Bentley role, do you?
Well, the only problem I can see, which might be a bit anachronistic, was the Velcro shoes. Because I don't think they're Velcro back then.
Where is it when they're telling you what a... Right, Bentley was sent to Kingswood Training School, Bristol, on 27th of October 1948, where he was administered diagnostic tests which were eventually determined when he was 15 and a half years old that his mental age was estimated at 10 years, 4 months, while he had scored 66 on an IQ test. Kingswood staff reported Bentley to be lazy, indifferent, voluble...
Just as, for reference to people, the average IQ of India is 70, so, you know, that's Derek Bentley's IQ there.
Derek Bentley's like I think he'd be average in what's that African country that's got an IQ of 60 something?
Burkina Faso.
No, it's New Guinea. What's the Guinea? Is it Guinea or New Guinea? The one in Africa. that's in the
that
wrong
would be
place.
Guinea then.
Yeah. Equatorial
South
Guinea, that's it,
Africa-
isn't it? It's Equatorial Guinea, isn't it?
A lot of those countries have got average IQs of 60.
Yeah. So, Kingswood staff reported Bentley to be lazy and different voluble Hobbit. He was voluble.
Volleyball, what would just... Is he a loud dribbler?
I've got to see what voluble means. That's one of those lovely old-timey insults, isn't it?
I'm just imagining like he's rocking back and forth going, "Time too late,
And of the wise guy type Hobbit he was as well.
But how can it be a wise guy when he's a dribbler?
No, I mean, a wise guy, she.
Yeah, but that means like, they've got witty responses and
Marked
I
by a
ain't seen
ready flow
nothing.
of speech. So, are they saying he was full of shit then? Is that what they're saying? Is that a posh way of saying full of shit? Speaking
So
a lot
he's a
with
dribbler,
confidence and enthusiasm.
So, a dribbler that doesn't know when to shut up.
Yeah. We know one of those, don't we?
Yes, I unfortunately, no.
Whilst the court described him
Yeah.
as indifferent, smug, self-satisfied and ready to tell tales. He was quite well thought of amongst it, weren't he?
So, in other words, it was like back then, if you were a nuisance, you'd get executed because you only got to look at the excesses of the 19th century, where it was like, well, we caught you nicking 100 weight of timber. We can either execute you or involuntary transportation to Australia, because that's a death sentence, apparently.
So after his arrest in November 1952, further IQ tests were administered to him at Brixton Prison. He was described there as borderline feeble-minded, with a verbal score of 71, a performance IQ of 87, and a full-scale IQ of 77. So, like, in 1952 then, he was like a Labour frontbencher?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, David Lammy's IQ is about a bit less than that.
Do you think he knows? What was that question that Lammy got wrong? I can't remember what it was now.
Is it the one where he sat down and he starts his speech as I stand here before you?
No, they say, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Dan Abbott."
What's your name? Jaffa Cakes.
Bentley was discovered to be quite illiterate at the time of his arrest in 1952. The prison medical officer said he cannot even recognise or write down the letters of the alphabet. So, there we go. That's Bentley.
So, in other words, you're saying he could be foreign minister?
Yeah, he could stammer and snap him up.
He will have to get through £4,000 worth of Jaffa Cakes in a month.
Yeah.
But considering he was doing a heist on the confectionery company, I think he could probably manage that.
So, are we ready for another murder that, spoilers, ends in hanging?
Well, I'm just curious, right? Did they say like what they'd stolen? Like, they got like pockets full of licorice roll-ups, or were they're into the father? Because it would have been
They
caught
didn't even get that far.
far.
They didn't even get that far, Hobbit. They got caught on the roof.
It was just a botched robbery. You get hung, and you didn't even get any sweets at the end of it.
Yeah, not even a single flying saucer past their lips.
I'm not saying like I approve of theft and stuff, but if you're going to get hung, at least die with like a mouthful of sweets.
Yeah, at least have like, I don't know, what were the sweets in the 50s?
Gobstoppers.
Gobstoppers. At least have 2 pockets full of gobstoppers and half a dozen in your mouth if you're going to get hung for
licorice confits and sherbet. They'd have had boiled sweets then as well, wouldn't they? They like their boiled sweets in the 50s.
Before we talk about Ruth Ellis, since Neil Gaiman's sci-fi author, do you want to talk? Have you seen what's been going on with Neil Gaiman, Hobbit?
Yes, Neil Gaiman. They eat the poo-poo.
You lick the poo-poo.
Eat the poo-poo.
He doesn't eat the poo-poo. He makes the women eat the poo-poo.
Neil Gaiman leans over the women whilst they're licking poo and goes, "Why are you gay?"
He dragged her back into the bathroom and said, "You haven't finished yet."
No, eat your dinner or you won't get dessert.
And then he did things to a lesbian woman. So a gay man assaulted a lesbian woman.
Just leaning over, assaulting her and going, "Why are you gay?"
Stop being gay.
Why are you gay?
Stop being gay.
Who says I am gay? You are gay. Does he look at himself in the mirror and goes, "Why are you gay, man?"
He's just trying to prove that he's not a gay man, isn't he?
Why are you gay?
He's like Ace Rimmer, and I've had sex with tons and tons of women.
Isn't that more like Richie Rich?
No, it was. Do you remember when they meet? Do you remember when they meet Crichton for the first time, and he gets Lister to bit? He says to Lister, "Just stop putting me down all the time." And Lister sarcastically goes, "This is my friend Ace Rimmer, and he's had sex with tons and tons of women."
Yeah, but he's not Ace Rimmer, the Space Corps pilot.
No, but that's where he says, "Why don't you call me? Why don't you use my nickname when I was a kid? What, Bonehead?" He says, "No, Ace."
Ace. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh dear, poor old Neil gay man.
Why are you gay? You gay man.
Why do you make the woman lick the poo poo? Are you gay?
You are gay. You gay man. Eat a poo poo.
So
is he going to get hung?
What's that?
Do they still do hanging in the United States of America?
No.
Are they going to be like hashtag believe all women, and then they're going to hang him, and then they're going to, because they're American and they're crass about this stuff, they're going to start playing bluesgrass music and calling him an Alabama wind chime.
Dear. So let's get on to our next murderer.
You'll be hearing from the ATL about this egregious Neil Gaiman libel and slander.
Yeah, you'll be hearing from my rabbi about this.
Yeah.
Did you know Neil Gaiman's parents were big in Scientology?
Did you know Neil Gaiman is gay?
Yeah. His mum and dad were massive in Scientology, but unfortunately they were big in Scientology just before L. Ron Hubbard died, and then it kind of changed when David Miscavige took over.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they were. Unfortunately, they were friends of the outgoing administration.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh dear. So this is.
So Neil Gaiman's not hung anybody, has he?
Not yet. I don't know. Maybe he has.
What's Neil Gaiman's stance on hanging?
It's probably all right while you're knocking one out. I don't know. He seems like that kind of guy.
Is he the sort of person that like goes into a closet, puts his head in a noose, and tries and knock one out before he passes out?
I think he might allegedly be a bit like that.
Allegedly.
He seems like allegedly he could be that type of person.
Was Neil Gaiman seen furtively skulking around the bushes around the time of Robin Williams' demise?
That could allegedly be the case.
Last seen buying a megabus ticket to Glasgow.
Sources close to Neil Gaiman say that this could have been the case.
Yes. So sources say he was caught buying a megabus ticket to Glasgow to see a prostitute afterwards.
Oh, dear.
Anonymous sources.
Let's talk about the next murder, shall we? Let's talk about Ruth Ellis.
Hanging out. We're just hanging out, that's all.
Yeah. In 1953, so I'll go straight to the murder and then we'll work backwards again because it makes it a bit more interesting. Because then it's record scratch. You probably wondered how I ended up stood over the dead man. In 1953, Ruth became manager of the Little Club, a nightclub in Knightsbridge. At this time, she was lavished with expensive gifts by admirers Also, you can tell she's a certain sort of woman, Hobbit, and had a number of celebrity friends. Ruth met David Blakely, 3 years her junior, through racing driver Mike Hawthorne. Blakely was a former public schoolboy who was educated at Shrewsbury School and had Sandhurst, but was also a hard drinking racer. Within weeks, he moved into Ruth's flat above the club, despite being engaged to another woman, Mary Dawson. Ruth became
racist.
Ruth
Met a few of those.
Yeah. Ruth became pregnant for a fourth time, but had her second abortion. So, abortion is a contraception method.
He's just a child murderer then. That's nice.
Yeah. Feeling she couldn't... That's one murder she got away with. No, 2 murders. It was a second abortion. Feeling she could not reciprocate the level of commitment Blakely showed towards their relationship. So, you're an arsehole, so I'm going to kill your child.
That's a really nice woman.
Ruth then began seeing Desmond Cusson, a former Royal Air Force pilot who had flown Lancaster bombers during the Second World War and who had taken up accountancy after leaving the service. He was appointed a director of a family business, Cusson & Co., a wholesale and retail tobacconist with outlets in London and South Wales. That's quite the... How do you decide you can have shops in London and South Wales? How do the two go together, Hobbit?
I just keep thinking the commute distance between the two.
Yeah. Ruth eventually moved in with Cusson at 20 Goodwood Court, Devonshire Street, north of Oxford Street. The relationship with Blakely continued, however. What a wonderful woman she is. However, became increasingly violent as he and Ruth continued to see other people. Blakely offered to marry Ruth. She consented, but in January 1955, she had a miscarriage after he punched her in the stomach during an argument. Why do I get the feeling that everybody should have been hung in this story?
No, I'm just thinking Norm MacDonald. Now, this may sound controversial, but I believe everybody involved should have been executed. I've just thought of like a new sustainable form of execution that doesn't involve firing squads or hanging.
You could use dudeweed hemp rope.
Well, yeah, but I'm thinking like this is the sustainable.
If we said we'd do it with hemp rope, will we be able to get Seth Rogen on board?
Dudeweed. So sustainable rope. What you do is you get this 10-ton weight. Make it out of steel because that steel can be wiped clean, and you lift it up to a great height, and then you drop it down on someone, the condemned,
I believe
and
the French did
then
this.
Yeah, but you see, they did a guillotine which decapitated people, and there was an experiment done which proved that the head is still conscious for about 30 seconds after decapitation.
Because that massive sicko, I've never really looked into him, but you ever heard of Gilles de Rais?
Is he the one who blinked his head afterwards and asked his friend
and he's also the one who said, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to hearing the blood gushing from the stump of my neck after the guillotine does its business."
So thanks to sicko James de Rais,
Gilles de Rais, it's like Giles but French.
To hemorrhoids de Rais, you live for about 30 seconds after being decapitated.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we may as well just go into logistics and the pros and cons of execution. When done correctly, hanging is instantaneous, but unfortunately that takes a lot of precision.
Even with hanging, surely the brain's going to live on for 30 seconds, the same as the...
Well... If it's anything
what's the difference between breaking the neck and guillotine? So, not a lot, right?
I believe when you sever the spinal... that's a very good question, actually. What is it about guillotine where people are still conscious, but with the hanging, it's instantaneous? I think there's something about snapping the spinal cord... Yeah, but then if you cut someone's...
Cutting, snapping, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Well, I've noticed from... Now, somebody who is like better at biology will be able to explain this, but I've wrung chicken and pheasant necks before, and it's been instant when I've done it. Well, I say instant. It's been like a split second to...
But if you chicken's head off, reportedly they'll run around for 20 minutes, won't they?
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's something like actually like snapping the neck like that is instant, whereas maybe somebody who's studied this can find out what the difference is. But that's what I'm thinking. If you drop a great big weight on somebody, like 10 tons, they're dead instantly, and there's no ambiguity of it because they're turned into a pancake afterwards.
Mm.
Because like with firing squads, you might miss and hit somebody in the lung instead of the heart. With hanging, you might get it wrong and they're strangled instead of neck snapping. And with lethal injection, with the sort of cocktail they use, there's always problems with that. So, and gas chambers.
Well, that's because the Swedish won't sell them it anymore, will they?
The Swiss,
I thought it was the Swedish. Oh, is it the Swiss? I thought it was Swedish.
Yeah, they won't sell it, or it could be the French. It was sodium thiopental.
Well, it's like a three-part thing, isn't? Or at least the two-part thing, isn't it? Because one of them is a one of them's an extreme muscle relaxant, isn't it? And then you have the poison one, don't you?
Yeah. The lethal injection.
Is it a heart attack one? The next one, isn't it? Isn't the first? I think the first one's an extreme muscle relaxant, and then they do one that stops your heart, don't they?
So, if they did it like the vets did, you give barbiturates to make the patient sleepy.
Oh, apparently, top job to top yourself is being a vet, and apparently a lot of them use that stuff, don't they?
That's funny because I heard the ones with the most likely to have depression and suicide is dentists.
All that mercury,
or maybe. Maybe it's that they're most likely to die of heart attack. Like of all the professionals, dentists seem to be the shortest lived and the most suicidal. But the vet stuff, when they put a dog to sleep or something, they'll use barbiturates.
It's like a milky thing, isn't it? It's like white.
Well, they'll use barbiturates to make the dog sleepy. Then they'll use morphine to really get them to sleep, and then whilst that they're going unconscious. Now, you could just kill someone using morphine, and that's what they do in hospitals with do not resuscitate orders. But what they do is an extra thing.
It's called something else, though, isn't it? That the actual thing they use to kill people is called something else, isn't it? I can't remember what it's called.
Well, if you give somebody morphine or any opiate, they'll eventually overdose and their heart lungs stop. But the thing they use specifically to stop the heart is low salt, which is potassium chloride.
Yeah.
By the way, you can safely eat low salt in small quantities, but if you have a large amount injected into your bloodstream, it will stop the heart muscles. But yeah, the lethal injection, it's just...
Don't eat too many bananas.
Yeah, lethal injection, it's cruel and unusual punishment, which goes against the Americans' constitution. So it's slow and it doesn't work well, and I can understand some executions.
From everything I've read, though, like the most efficient, cost-effective, like everything, I'd put hanging at the top of all of them. From what I've read about it.
Well, again, it takes a lot of skill because now they got a museum to hanging in. It used to be H&P Shrewsbury, but it's now a museum in Shrewsbury, and it's they've got the I'm not sure if it's real or not, but they have like a room where the condemned has his final night, and next door to it is the executioner's room, and in the executioner's room is a weigh scale with a bag of sand, which is the same weight as the condemned, and then the test noose to make sure that it will actually hold up under that weight, because there's something you've got to be very precise with the knots and stuff like that, because if it's not strong enough, then the noose will break and they'll just fall like to the floor. If it's if it's done too strong, it won't make the right sort of snap.
The drop has to be correct as well, doesn't it? Because if you don't get the drop right, the neck stretches and the body falls off, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. In which case, it's like they'll have a slow, lingering death as they get strangled.
No. There's another one where the body will fall off, so it's got to drop just right, so it just snaps it and kind of keeps it together. But there's another one where the neck stretches and the body falls off the bottom. I think if you don't get that one right as well.
If you just had a 10-ton weight, similar operating mechanism to a guillotine, and you just drop it on people. I've seen industrial accidents where steel beams have collapsed or rolled onto people, and it's like you can tell they're pretty much dead from the moment that steel beam hit them in the head. Just put the
condemned to work in a factory in China, because then their death can come any time, and for any reason.
I believe that counts as cruel and unusual punishment.
Cruel and just not knowing when the hammer's going to drop on you.
Or you're putting some bubble wrap into the back of a van, and you're thinking, oh, surely this is safe, but then there's some sort of gas in the bubble wrap, and you get turned into a human torch, because I guess putting bubble wrap into a van is in fact entirely dangerous in China.
It's without its
Or it's a lathe, and you're just going to be turned into a human doner kebab, because and there's going to be strawberry jam everywhere, because
or I'll just check the back of this press while it's open quick.
Oh yeah, here's the steel chopping press that can chop through 5 mil of steel. I'll just lean into that, and
just check the back. I'll just lean in and check the back of it's working okay.
Yeah. Chinese I say Chinese and heavy machinery don't mix. I mean, the Chinese and escalators, that seems to be. It's pretty much like that scene in Terra Firma where the fat man gets eaten by the escalator. That just happens in China on a regular basis. It's incredible.
You can't walk along the pavement, can you? Because it might explode on you, or just collapse in.
Oh yeah, just occasionally manhole covers explode, and there's this 30-foot gout of flame, and where the little old lady was is now just some bits which are going to go into the stir fry that night.
Yeah.
You see, I believe in Anglo countries, cruel and unusual punishments are generally frowned upon. You're not allowed to do that, and the state, I think, in order to maintain its legitimacy, they're like, oh well, we can't really have we can't be executing people in barbaric ways, because then the public would start to get up in arms and write strongly worded letters and fill in potholes with concrete. Or they really hate it when you.
Like I say, kind of humane wise, as long as you've got a good executioner, it seems to be that. In my opinion, hanging's the way to go.
What about laughing gas?
I don't know. That'd be quite painful, wouldn't it? There was that bloke. You know about that bloke laughed himself to death watching the Goodies, don't you?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Right, if you'd had a gas chamber, but you had laughing gas in there, as far as I know,
laughing gas just plus an episode of the Goodies.
Yeah, no, they'll just sort of laugh until they're unconscious, and because nitrous oxide is
worse than that. You don't die of that. The guy who died watching the Goodies, he actually died of, I think it was asphyxiation.
Yeah, because he couldn't breathe enough as he was laughing that much.
Was it he couldn't breathe in or couldn't breathe out? One of the two. He couldn't. Something happened with his diaphragm, I think, and I think that's why. I think that's how he ended. Why he died? Why it happened, wasn't it?
I mean, of all the ways to die, a lot of ways of dying are pretty unpleasant. But I think being in the hospital, being full of morphine, that's probably not too bad a way of dying. And also laughing yourself to death. You're laughing yourself to death.
Yeah.
or having a heart attack whilst you're trying to open up a bra with your teeth at the age of 84.
Oh, you want to go like? Do you remember Thingy? What's it called? The Meaning of Life, where the bloke dies being chased by those women with no bras on.
No, if you're Freddie Bentley, that's a horrific way of dying. But
yeah, not Freddie. Yeah, Freddie Bentley. Yeah, Freddie Bentley wouldn't like that.
Yeah, you know, the brother of the condemned. He has nightmares occasionally where he wakes up where he thinks he's seen a vagina.
I found the article. Doctors solve mystery of man who died from laughter while watching the Goodies after his granddaughter nearly dies from the same rare heart condition.
Oh, was it where you laugh so much and it causes your heart to go into fibrillation?
He was the man who made the headlines when he died from heart failure after watching non-stop at the Goodies. Laughing non-stop at the Goodies. Alex Mitchell's wife Nessie, who witnessed his death, even sent Tim Brooke-Taylor, Graham Garden and Bill Oddie a letter thanking them for making her husband's final minutes so happy. Now 37...
I fucking hated that cunt. You've got blood on your hand.
Yeah, you fucking... Why are you so funny? Stop it. Now 7 years on from
Monty
the famous...
Python got their idea for the weaponised joke.
If you want to know what episode it was the Ecky Thump episode of it.
I've heard of the Ecky Thump episode.
Yeah, this will be why.
Mm.
The clue came when Mr. Mitchell's granddaughter, Lisa Cork, 23, nearly suffered a near-fatal cardiac arrest while relaxing at her home. Doctors subsequently diagnosed her with long QT syndrome. Hey, she's a little cutie. A rare form of heart disease which causes irregular heartbeats. Okay. The Battle of Ecky Thump. So there's a little box in it that tells you about the episode. In the 1975 episode of the Goodies called Kung Fu Capers with a K, Bill Oddie demonstrates the made-up Scottish martial art of Hoots Toot Ockeye. This consisted of fights with various assailants played by the other two Goodies, including two boxers, a French stick fighter and an Australian with a boomerang. He wins by cunningly hitting him over the head with a black pudding. He meets his match when Tim Brooke-Taylor takes him on armed with the bagpipes. However, Tim loses after he's hit over the head by the returning boomerang thrown earlier by the Australian. Oddie celebrates his victory after it's announced by the umpire. That actually does sound quite funny.
I like that. I could just imagine sort of bonking somebody over the head with a black pudding.
Oh, so as the condition is hereditary, they believe the Scottish Mr. Mitchell... Why do I need to tell you Scottish? A bricklayer who lived in Norfolk must also have suffered from it and triggered a collapse with his laughing fit. Mrs. Cork from the Isle of Sheppey, Kent, said...
Chinese.
Said, my granddad died from one of the most famous strange deaths. Oh, so what they're saying is they thought that he died, that the laughter caused the heart attack, but it turns out that he had the long QT syndrome, so he laughed and then died of the heart attack.
So, in other words, are they saying like a preventative measure for these is to make sure they never laugh? They're going to make them watch The Office and Gavin and
I think the
Stacey.
BBC took this quite seriously. Speaking of BBC comedy, did you hear about Rosie Jones? She's been declared. You know the comic with cerebral palsy.
Oh,
Phil doesn't like her. She's not funny at all.
I was going to say, is it the sort of one where you're supposed to laugh with her, but really you're just laughing at her?
Yeah. She's been declared less funny than Lenny Henry.
I was going to say, is she also like the unfunny version of Ricky Berwick?
I'd probably say more like, oh shit, what's her name? Something Sanchez. She's actually quite fun. I put one of her things on to like not laugh at it, and it was quite funny. There's the other cerebral palsy one, isn't there? Something Sanchez. I can't remember her name.
Don't know. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky Berwick posted a picture of his hand recently, and I just thought, oh yeah, that looks quite freaky.
He was at London Comic Con, weren't he? That would have been quite funny to bump into Ricky Berwick.
Mm.
He is a funny guy. You can't say he's not a funny guy, is he?
Oh no, I don't. He makes me laugh, but at the same time, it's just like, oh yeah, Yeah.
Right. So, did you want to? We're running out of time. Did you want to talk about Ruth Ellis, or did you want to talk about Albert Pierpoint?
Well, no, we should do Ruth Ellis, but how are we doing for time?
It's 8:10, so I think we've probably got time to do one. I don't think we've got time to do Albert Pierpoint as well.
We got plenty of time to talk about Ruth Ellis then.
Yeah. Okay then. So she was anyway. So she's 2 abortions down. As a recap.
And a miscarriage.
Picks up with a Royal Air Force pilot, but she's still banging the violent guy on the side, like the Chad. So she's decided Desmond's a safe bet, but she's still got Chad on the side, Blakely, who punches you in the guts, because that's what Chad does when he finds out you're pregnant. He tries to kick the baby out of you.
Yeah.
So on Easter Sunday, 10th of April 1955, Ruth took a taxi from Cusson's home to a second-floor flat at 29 Tanzer Road, Hampstead, the home of Anthony and Carol Findlater. Is it Findlater or Findlater? I don't know. I don't know how you'd say it. Now,
I'm no biologist, but I get a feeling that abortions and being punched in the guts to miscarriage is not like a good reproductive trait.
Well, she had 2 kids. I was talking to Ian about this, and he actually said, and he sent me a link to a really weird interview she had with Michael Barrymore. And when I say weird, it is fucking weird.
Wait, Michael Barrymore, the one that had the man die in mysterious circumstances in a swimming.
The more politically incorrect. I don't co-sign this joke at all, but the one that said his pool cleaner had enough of him, hadn't he? 'Cause he kept leaving fags in the pool.
Oh yeah. You know the now for those in the YouTube audience, we're talking about discarded cigarette butts and and not dead homosexuals.
Well, some kind of discarded butt, anyway.
Just by coincidence, discarded homosexuals
actually,
were
you could
found.
do the Yank version of that, where he kept leaving his butts in the pool.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So one murderer interviewing another murderer about how to do a murderer.
So her daughter was on there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So what? Like Michael Barrymore was saying. So a friend of mine asking, if you have a homosexual who's dead in your swimming pool, how do you you're in a party and someone does a bit too many drugs.
Things get a bit wild, and somebody leaves something in the pool.
They overdose and they're wearing a gag, so they drown in their own vomit.
And you're dead. He's fucking dead. You can't.
Yeah. And she's dead, and you're laughing. And so, what do you do in that situation?
Brutus seen getting a bus to Essex.
Brutus seen getting yet another Twitter account like a dickhead. I wonder what his stance on hanging is.
I dread to think what it. I think his stance on hanging would be as long as it's over a door while you're knocking one out. I should imagine.
Or as long as you use cow poo whilst doing it, because that's Ayurvedic, that is.
So, on Easter Sunday, 10th of April 1955, Ruth took a taxi from Cusson's home to a second-floor flat at 29 Tanzer Road. So that's where she went to the home of Anthony and Carol Findlater. Is it a Findlater? Even though it's one T. I don't know. It's one of those weird British surnames that you don't really see anymore, isn't it?
We'll find out later.
Yeah, where she suspected Blakely might be. As she arrived, Blakely's car drove off, so she paid off the taxi and walked a quarter of a mile to the Magdala. What's that?
I'll get you, Blakely.
Yeah, she should have done, follow that car. That's what you're supposed to do with taxis, isn't it? You go, follow that car. And that's what they do in the films, anyway.
No, don't go south of the river. How do you know where the car's going?
So she walked the quarter of a mile, 400 metres to the Magdala public house in South Hill Park, where she found Blakely's car parked outside. Well, fucking hell, she's got like a Chad dar, hasn't she? She can find a Chad anywhere in the city of London, can't she? Just turns on the old fucking radar, and there she is, fucking homing in on him.
You're saying she's got like a heat-sinking minge.
She's got like an STD-seeking minge. At around 9:30 p.m, Blakely and his friend Clive Gunnell emerged. Oh, they emerged, did they? Blakely passed Ruth waiting on the pavement when she stepped out the doorway of Henshaw's, a newsagent next to the Magdala. As Blakely searched for the keys to his car, Ruth took a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson Victory model revolver from her handbag and fired 5 shots at Blakely. The first shot, fucking hell, London was like fucking Detroit, weren't it? In the fucking 50s, weren't it, Hobbit?
I could just imagine RoboCop in Soho.
just everybody's popping a cap in motherfuckers, aren't they?
You're brown bread. I am already brown bread. You're under arrest. Bang, 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 bang.
Oops, I've shot another copper. Take the bullet out, quick. Bit controversial there. So she pulled a revolver from her handbag, fired 5 shots at Blakely. The first shot missed. Typical woman. Ruth pursued Blakely as he started to run around the car, firing a second shot which caused him to collapse onto the pavement. She then stood over him, fired 3 more bullets with one fired less than half an inch from his back, leaving powder burns on the skin. Ruth was seen to... This is supposed to be a controversial case, by the way, Hobbit. It's literally, she fucking murdered the poor bastard in cold blood. He may have been a Chad dickhead, but she deserved it because she kept going back to him for sex.
I mean, the final bullet where it's just like you're pushing up the barrel into his back. It's like, you know, he's dead, you cunt.
He's fucking dead, you cunt. Ruth was seen to stand over Blakely as she repeatedly tried to fire the revolver's 6th shot, finally firing it into the ground. The bullet ricocheted off the road and injured Gladys Yule, a bystander who lost the use of her right thumb.
Oh, what a bitch.
Press F for Gladys's thumb.
Yeah, but of all the places for that bullet to ricochet, I mean, like, it could have gone harmlessly careened off, but it hit her in the thumb.
I know. Imagine that, getting hit in the thumb. I mean, you could say she was lucky, but then she's not because she lost the use of her thumb.
Yeah.
Ruth, in apparent shock, asked Gunnell, "Will you call the police, Clive?" She was immediately arrested. She was arrested immediately by an off-duty policeman who heard her say, "I'm guilty. I'm a little confused." Oh, here we go, Hobbit. Here we go.
I've done a murder. Tee hee hee.
It's a blobby strut. I'm on a blobby strut, innit, mate? Not my fault.
It's not my fault. I'm a woman. Tee hee hee.
Blakely's body was taken to hospital with multiple fatal wounds to the intestines, liver, lung, aorta, and trachea. She did pretty well there, didn't she? Got all the major organs.
Yeah, I mean, in 4 shots because 2 of them missed.
Yeah. Originally taken in as evidence, the revolver is now in Metropolitan Police's Crime Museum. At Hampstead Police Station, Ruth appeared to be calm and not obviously under the influence of drink or drugs. She might look at them. Look, they're making every excuse, trying to find there's got to be some excuse as why it's not her fault. Like poor old Derek Bentley didn't even have the gun in his hand. They're trying to fucking get her off it, and she ain't even holding. And she pumped fucking 4 bullets into the poor bastard.
Yeah, but reading in between the lines of Derek Bentley's case, right. So there's a couple of things. 1, he's a dribbler. 2, just look at him. 3, well, he's going to die. And 4, his brother's Freddie Bentley.
Yeah. Ruth was twice examined by Principal Medical Officer M.R. Penry Williams, who failed to find evidence of mental illness. Is that an EEG of it? An electroencephalograph. Electroencephalograph? Is that an EEG?
I'm going to assume, unless somebody can say something else, yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
EEG.
Electroencephalograph. Yeah, that's got to be an EEG, hasn't it? Examination on 3rd of May, found no abnormality. EEG, that's heart, isn't it?
Well, EKG, EEG, I mean, they also call it electrocardiogram. It really depends where you put the electrodes, I suppose.
While on remand, Ruth was examined by psychiatrist. Fucking 3rd psychiatrist. Poor old fucking Bentley. They just go, oh, well, he's fucking retarded. Let's give him the rope. They literally... Yeah. Ruth was examined by... Obviously, it can't be her fault. She's a woman, isn't she? Duncan Whitaker for defence and by... did she have the vapours? Is that... What would the Victorians call it? They're just trying to find some evidence that she's got the vapours.
Hysteria.
She's got hysteria. Yeah, they're trying to find some evidence of hysteria, aren't they? like good Victorians.
Woman's hysteria, and she needs to see a physician who can administer the vibrator.
The slap. The slap. That's
no. You know, like the Victorian doctors, because they were suffering RSI, they invented the vibrator because it's like the woman would go with them hysterical, and so that, like, before, the doctors would finger them until they calmed down. And then they were doing this so often.
Is that like that woman when that pit bull was attacking her dog, she stuck a thumb in its ass? Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, I suppose so. But you know, the doctors were like,
"You've murdered someone." Oh, maybe that's what Neil Gaiman was trying to do then when he fingered that lesbian. He was trying to calm her down.
Yeah, well, that's it. They just sort of like, look, you stick a finger in a minge and it'll calm her down.
Yeah.
And the doctor was just like, look, I came to doctor to set bones and cure people of tuberculosis and other diseases, not to, like, finger women. I do enough of that with my missus.
Can't you know much Indian doctors would have loved it in the Victorian era?
Yeah.
I mean, they do that now. They do that now when they're not supposed to.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Even if patients are unconscious, which you could argue saying, like, well, if the patient's unconscious, then what benefit is it to the patient?
Oh my God, more of the weird names. Wait till we get to the names on this one, Hobbit. On the 20th of June, 1955, Ruth appeared in the number 1 court at the Old Bailey, London, before Mr. Justice Havers. That's not his name. She was dressed in a black suit, white silk blouse with freshly bleached and coiffured blonde hair. Her defending counsel, Aubrey Melford Stevenson, supported by Seabag Shaw and Peter Rawlinson. Have you ever heard of anyone called Seabag?
No, but I just, like, these names, like the Plantagenets and Tudors, they just seem to fall to the wayside. I don't know anybody.
Oh, Hobbit, see if you can guess who was prosecuting.
Oh, was it Christmas Humphreys?
That's it, Christmas Humphreys was prosecuting.
Really? He gets around a bit.
Yeah, he was a busy lad. Well, this was only 3 years later, so... The only question put to Ruth by prosecutor Christmas Humphreys was, when you fired the revolver at close range into the body of David Blakely, what did you intend to do? Her answer was, it's obvious when I shot him, I intended to kill him. This reply guaranteed a guilty verdict and the mandatory death sentence. The jury took 20 minutes to convict her.
20 minutes of what? Like, oh, I think she's got the vapours. Oh, I think she's got hysteria. Oh, can we, the members of the jury...
But she's a woman. Is there some way we can say she's not guilty? Maybe she just needs to go back to university.
But maybe 12 members of the jury are deliberating on whether or not to stick a finger in a minge or not. See if it'll calm her down. See if it'll bring
stick
back
a thumb in her ass, see if it'll calm her down.
See if it'll bring the victim back to life and restore the use of that poor lady's thumb.
Ruth remained at Holloway Prison while awaiting execution. She told her mother that she did not want a petition to reprieve her from death sentence and took no part in the campaign. However, her relatives urging her solicitor John Bickford wrote a 7-page letter to Home Secretary William Lloyd George, yes, and the names carry on, setting out the grounds for reprieve.
Why?
Lloyd George denied the request.
Why? Yeah, but why? It's like, look, She doesn't want a reprieve. She done it. She's going to get
She
hung.
put 4 fucking bullets into him in fucking cold blood. Jesus Christ! It's like what?
It wasn't a crime of passion. It was like premeditated, and you could say after 1 or 2 shots, oh yeah, she realised what by then that it was a mistake. But when firing not just like 5 bullets, but then going click, 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 bang,
And that
and
poor
then
woman's
taking
thumb topped it as well, didn't it?
That's what I'm saying, going click, 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 bang, then, you've taken out someone else's thumb. It's just like, look, she's a rabid dog. She needs to be put down.
Yeah. So if you want to see her gun and the noose, you can go to the Metropolitan Police Crime Museum. I think that's the same with the Let Him Have It ones. I think they're in the Met Police Crime Museum as well.
So is the controversy, the members of the jury saying, like, come on, let me put a finger in a minge?
Ruth's case caused widespread controversy at the time, evoking exceptionally intense press and public interest to the point it was discussed by the cabinet. They're like, I don't know, you got a woman with the vapours and they're hanging her. That's not on, is it?
Oh, isn't it terrible that this slightly attractive woman is going to be sent to death?
Yeah. I can change her. If I get stick my thumb in her ass, I'll change her.
I'll stick my thumb in the bum and 2 in the pink. That will calm her down.
The novelist Raymond Chandler, then living in Britain, wrote a scathing letter to the Evening Standard, referring to what he described as the medieval savagery of the law.
Look, can I just... Oh, yeah, let's ignore the medieval savagery of the murderer. The woman who casually murders her own children, and then this man. Can I just, if anybody's coming to this and they're going to leave a nasty review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever, Spotify, we're available in a number of places these days. Look, I'm not just saying stick 1 in the stink and 2 in the pink just to be vulgar. I'm saying this is what doctors actually did with women up until the early 20th century to cure them of hysteria, which was just like, oh, it's a woman being emotional. Well, time to do some manual, work to calm her down.
So, family aftermath. Ruth's former husband, George Ellis, died by suicide by hanging at a Jersey hotel on the 2nd of August 1958. He was kind of humiliated a bit, weren't he? In 1969, Ellis's mother, Bertha Nielsen, was found unconscious in a gas-filled room in her flat in Hemel Hempstead. She never fully recovered and did not speak coherently again, even though there's no reason for this because natural gas doesn't actually do anything, do you?
Maybe she had a stroke?
Probably. But I am right, though, aren't I? Natural gas doesn't do anything to you, even if you inhale a load of it, does it?
Well, if you get oxygen starvation, you'll get dirt-brained.
Oh, right. So the natural gas will purge the oxygen from your body. I should imagine it was probably a faulty boiler or something. It was probably more likely carbon monoxide that rotted her brain, wasn't it?
I'm wondering if she turned the gas on because she was going to cook something, and then she had a stroke.
Yeah.
And then when they got there, they smelled gas. And they're like, oh, she tried to gas herself. Yeah. And it's like, no, she had a stroke.
She farted herself to death.
Yeah.
Ruth's son Andy, who was aged 10 at the time of his mother's execution, took his own life in a bedsit in 1982, shortly after desecrating her grave. The trial judge, Sir Cecil Havers, had sent money every year for Andy's upkeep. Oh, okay. And Christmas Humphreys, the prosecution counsel at Ruth's trial, paid for his funeral. Her daughter Georgina, who was aged 3 when her mother was executed, was fostered when her father killed himself 3 years later. She appeared on a memorable edition of the television discussion programme After Dark and died of cancer in 2001 at age 50.
Cursed family.
Do you know some actual fucking stupid people wanted her to have a pardon? The Ellis case continues to have a strong grip on the British imagination. In 2003, it was referred back to the Court of Appeal by the Criminal Cases Review Commission. The court firmly rejected the appeal, although it made it clear it could rule only on the conviction based on the law as it stood in 1955, and not on whether she should have been executed. The court was critical of the fact it had been obliged to consider the appeal. I mean, what was she fucking... Oh, has the law changed where women having blobby strops are allowed to murder people now then?
Well, do you remember that there was one of the last stories we covered on JDLE about that aunt that stabbed her boyfriend with a bread knife in the stomach 3 times?
Yeah.
And she was studying to be a medical student at the time, and the judge said, "Oh, well, you know."
And then, as an addendum to that, she dropped out. Did you hear that part of it?
Yeah, because the judge says, "Look, you've got a promising career ahead of you as a doctor, so I'm not going to."
Minor surgery.
Well, rather serious surgery. You know, stabbing someone in the intestines is going to take a lot of work to put back, and he's probably be in a colostomy bag for the rest of his life. Poor chap.
Or at least he'll probably be ill for a while, won't he?
Well, you get stabbed in the gut, and you know that's horrible. That's I feel so sorry for the chap.
It just goes to show how stupid people are. It's like, because this is actually pretty based from the Criminal Court of Appeal, because they say
stupid or evil.
This case is therefore quite different from a case like Hanratty, where the issue was whether a wholly innocent person who'd be convicted of murder. And wrong on that scale, if it had occurred, might even be today a matter of general public concern. But in this case, there was no question Mrs. Ellis was other than the killer, and the only issue was the precise crime of which she was guilty. If we'd not been obliged to consider her case, we would perhaps, in the time available, dealt with 8 to 12 other cases, the majority of which would involve people who were said to be wrongly in custody. Oh, you fucker! In 2007, the Downing Street website asking Prime Minister Gordon Brown to reconsider the Ellis case and grant her a pardon. A pardon for fucking what?
The people that are asking for these things, they ought to be investigating themselves. There's got to be some sort of criminal misdoings, misdeeds. They've got to be guilty of something, right? Look, I mean, Freddie Brentley's brother can be hung to death because he said let him have it.
Yeah.
Then these people saying, look, this clear, like, unrepentant murderer.
Yeah, but you don't get it. She had tits and blonde hair.
But who murdered her own children? You know, let's face it. It's like that. That's the bit which really, like, you know, you killed an adult. Yeah, that.
She treated Davy Blakely like he was a child in her womb, didn't she?
Yeah, and you know, shooting somebody's thumb off as well. That's pretty nasty. But like killing your own children, fuck me, what a monster!
What the fuck? Craig Wilson says that fucker from Coronation Street told that little girl he took swimming that she'd sink if he took his finger out. What? Oh, so interdimensional cleared it up. ECG is for the heart. EEG is for the brain.
I see.
Big Worm says, just switched on. Why is everyone talking about poking people's hoops? Big Worm, Google Neil Gaiman. Google Neil Gaiman and how to deal with hysterics, Victorian style.
Other search engines are available.
Yeah. I think, isn't Google like video? It's like a verb now, isn't it? I think.
No, I'm not using that.
I think it's a verb and a proper noun.
No, it's one of those things. Like, it's like people using the word twerk to mean dance. I'm just not going to say it.
Well, twerk's what a northern bloke does in the morning, isn't it? Just twerk.
Yeah.
I think Google is. Is Google a verb as well as a noun?
It is a verb.
It's like hoovering. It's like hoovering. It's Googling. It's like hoovering.
It is a verb, but I'm not going to use it. Oh, and by the way, the earliest instance of the term Google that I could find is in Enid Blyton, Moonface makes Google buns, which are buns filled with sherbet and fruit. That precedes the stupid story that they told Google.
So,
Like,
Enid Blyton's kids sue Google, sue Alphabet.
well, the bit which annoyed me about that was there was this story saying, what's a name for like a really big number? And the mathematician turned to his son and said, "Oh, I know, it's a Google." And so he said, "Oh, well, we're going to call it a Google." And then Sergey Brin and Larry Page said, "Oh, well, Google's a really big number. We'll use that as the name of our search engine. We'll base on this story that's, been completely yankified, when in fact we all know that the true origin of the word Google is from Moonface in the Magic Faraway Tree." So fuck you very much, Alphabet and Google. And YouTube, a subsidiary of Google, Alphabet.
So do you want to talk? We can talk about Pierpoint for 20 minutes, can't we?
Yeah. How many murders did he do then?
He did quite a few, but they were all legal.
It's all right because this piece of paper says I'm allowed to murder.
Yeah. So he killed Gordon Cummins, who was the Blackout Ripper, John Hay, the acid bath murderer, John Reginald Christie.
But wait, all this piece of paper says I can do whatever I want, and then it's got a scribbled signature on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Christie, who was the Rillington Place Strangler. Timothy Evans, who was wrongly accused of one of John Christie's murders. Derek Bentley and Ruth Ellis.
Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Chris Evans, who who escaped
Timothy
hanging.
Evans is innocent.
But Chris Evans is still alive, as far as I know.
William Joyce, he also hung him as well. Lord Haw.
All right.
John Amory, who was British fascist and his Nazi collaborator during World War II. He was the originator of the British Free Corps, volunteer Waffen SS unit composed of former British and Dominion prisoners of war. And the hanging of Theodore Skirch. Theodore William John Skirch was a British soldier who was executed under the Treachery Act in 1940 after the end of the Second World War. He was the last person to be executed in Britain for an offence other than murder.
So yeah, I was going to say treachery was treason was ended as a capital offence by Tony Blair.
It's funny that Tony Blair decided to get rid of that when he started his reign as Prime Minister. It's weird, strange. Just coincidence,
yeah,
I suppose.
Because people argue what he did afterwards could be construed as high treason, but I'm no legal expert. So
life in prison would be
I don't know what
I'd prefer Tony Blair to be life in prison rather than executed.
Would you rather Tony Blair had life in prison, or he had to live on a council estate in Weston-super-Mare or Clacton?
No, prison cell. Very small prison cell. Constant isolation.
All right, but
constant isolation. Zero visitors. No, actually, he's allowed one visitor. His horrible, ugly wife.
Right, so he's in a bed sit. He has to pay £800 a month for it, and his bennies only give him £350 a month.
Yeah, that sounds all right.
And if he works cash in hand, his bennies will be stopped.
Yeah.
And also, good luck trying to find a job in Weston, because he's not Albanian.
So I'll start with Pierpoints, because you don't want to know the Pierpoint. His dad was a hangman. I don't know whether you knew that. He was the official hangman in the United Kingdom. Or England.
So there's just one hangman.
No, there's hangman, and then there are assistant hangmen as well. Didn't know whether you knew that.
So how many hangings were done?
I think you're on a list. I think you become you can be a lead executioner and a assistant executioner. I think it's kind of I assume there's some sort of list, isn't there?
So what's the difference between Mr. Pierpoint, who's got a piece of paper saying I can hang whoever I want?
Yeah.
And Dr.
Well, he doesn't hang whoever he wants. He gets to hang who he's told to hang, doesn't he?
Yeah, but what if that happens to coincide with the list of the people he wants to hang?
It's a good day's work, isn't it? You know, if you enjoy your work, you'll never work a day in your life, will you?
Yeah.
Imagine him just hanging former prime ministers all day. I mean, that you wouldn't feel like you're working a day in your life, would you?
Is it like I assume it's a job with a lot of paid holiday? Like it wasn't like.
So we'll talk about this. We'll talk because it tells you all in here. So 19th of April 1931, Pierpoint wrote to the prison commissioners and applied to be assistant executioner. He was turned down. There were no vacancies. He received an invitation for an interview 6 months later. He was accepted and spent 4 days training at Pentonville Prison in London, where a dummy was used for practice. He received his formal acceptance letter as an assistant executioner at the end of September 1932. At that time, the assistant's fee...
Can I just say, like, the bar to entry for these high-paid professional jobs then and now, like, he spent 4 days training. It's like, there you go, you're now the chief executioner of the country.
No, he's assistant. He's assistant executioner all this time.
All right, so he's done 4 days of training. It's like, right, you are now an executioner. You're in a highly trusted position.
He did more than that. He was assistant executioner from 1931 to 1940, so 9 years he was assistant for.
Right, so what I'm saying is he's had 4 days of training, and it's like, right, that's it. You're now capable of the job. Can you imagine if we? Can you imagine if we had hangmen these days? Also, hang people person, because you can't call them hangmen.
Persons of people.
Can you imagine the amount of training? It'd be like, oh well, you need to spend at least 4 years in university.
You'd have to have I don't know, what's like the worst. Like some sort of sociology degree, wouldn't you? Now you
need to write the victim impact statement. You need to do public services. You need to do a risk assessment. You know, on the potential of injuries, both to the condemned and to the operatives. And
you don't want them kicking out and catching in the chin, do you?
You need to wear your PPE, so you've got to wear your safety shoes and your high vis jacket.
Yeah.
So the condemned can see
that'd be like,
are.
Imagine being hung by a man wearing a high-vis jacket. That'd just be an insult to injury, wouldn't it?
Can I just say, look, there is a time and a place for high-vis jackets. Like, if you're on the motorway or something, you definitely want to be seen then. But, like, I think there's, like, too much high-vis jackets in the world these days. There's too much of it in this country. We don't need these people to be that high visibility.
So anyway, should we get back to Pierpoint now and away from the high-vis jackets?
So what's the difference between Mr. Pierpoint and Dr. Harold Shipman?
Pierpoint takes the government shilling. I know, I think he did technically as well, didn't he?
Is it because one enjoyed his job and the other didn't?
Which one was which?
Well, you see, that could be an topic of debate.
Yeah. At that time, the assistant's fee, Hobbit, was £1.11 shillings and 6d, which is pence, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
£1.11 and 6. Do you want to find out what that is in current money?
What, from 1950s to now?
Yeah, there you go. I'll put it in general. I'll copy and paste it.
Well, if a car costs £200 and a car costs like £40,000 now, so he got a 200th of a car. So no, he got a bit more into it. Let's say we'll round it up. Say he got £2.
Well, this is per execution. This isn't his wage.
All right, so 20 shillings in a pound, right? So 1.11 and sixpence. So he's getting close to £2, and that'll be like 100th of a car. So he's getting 1% of a car. Well, the typical car retails.
For inflation, have you? You can get that adjusted for inflation, can't you?
The typical car now retails for £40,000.
Yeah.
So if we say 1% of £40,000, that's what? That's £400. So you got £400 for an execution, give or take a bit.
Not bad money if you can get it, is it?
Yeah, well, you know, it's all in a day's work. £400, throw a lever.
Right, so he should clearly understand. So, execution their assistants were required to be discreet. The rules for those roles included the clause: he should clearly understand that his conduct and general behaviour should be respectable, not only at the place and time of the execution, but before and subsequently, so that he should avoid attracting public attention going to or from the prison, and he is prohibited from giving to any person particulars on the subject of his duty for publication.
So no manic laugher as he comes in, and no wearing Victorian top hats, and probably frowned upon of masturbating whilst on the job.
Yeah. In late December 1932, Pierpont undertook his first execution. Hold on a minute.
So out of curiosity, right?
A year later, he's hanging them.
Yeah, well, maybe it's like a vetting period or something.
Yeah.
But out of curiosity, right? Let's say the condemned voids their bowels.
Yeah.
Is it the executioner's job to deal with it? Who deals with, like, you know? Well,
as Goldie says in Snatch, I create the bodies, I don't erase the bodies.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, it's more than my job's worth, mate.
Yeah.
No, I just hang the buggers.
In late December 1932, undertook his first execution. His Uncle Tom had been contracted by the government.
I spent 4 days learning in Pentonville how to hang dummies.
He's done a year, yeah. He's done a year with it so far.
I didn't spend 4 days in Pentonville.
I think he's done a year, and now it's time for his first execution, which he goes to with his Uncle Tom. So his Uncle Tom would be the top lad, and he'd be like YTS. All
right, nephew. Come on, we're going to do a hanging today.
Can we go and hang some buggers, Uncle Tom?
I hope you remembered in your 4 days of training with that dummy how to use a mop and bucket. What is that, Uncle Tom? Occasionally they shit themselves when they die. And
Look, Albert, I create the bodies, I don't erase the bodies. That's your job, Albert, as the assistant.
Yeah. Oh, it's Muggins here. He's always got to do the shitty end of the stick.
Just remember, Albert, when you become the lead executioner, someone else will be clearing the shit up.
One day, my son, all of this will be yours.
His Uncle Tom had been contracted by the government of the Irish Free State for the hanging of Patrick McDermott, a young Irish farmer who had murdered his brother. Tom was free to select his own assistant, as it was outside Britain, and he took Pierpont with him. They travelled to Mountjoy prison. Can you imagine little Albert in his sandwiches in his lunchbox, smiling at his Uncle Tom while they're on the road?
Hello, Mick and Paddy. We've come to hang one of you bastards. Come on.
We've come to hang a bog trotter.
Which one of you has been smuggling Pete out? Come on.
They travelled to the Mountjoy prison, Dublin, for the hanging. It was scheduled for 8 a.m. and took less than a minute to perform. That's probably one of the few times it's good for being able to perform in less than a minute. It's generally not good for a man to be performing in less than a minute, is it?
Well, I don't know. It's like speed running.
Oh, the bloke who played Len Fairclough in Corrie got charged with kiddie fiddling. Oh, that was quite an old one.
What's this got to do with
it's Edward Kastner's 9-year-old nephew in 1920 supposedly came up with Google.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, look, Enid Blyton beat all of you to it, so go fuck yourself.
So Big Worm says, Neil Gaiman, the world-renowned hoop poker. Well, he wasn't before. He was the world-renowned author of Sandman, but now he's the world-renowned hoop poker.
Oh, and American Gods.
Yeah. And that really fucking crap episode of Doctor Who where the TARDIS became a woman.
I was in a book group and they got us to read American Gods, and I got into like the first chapter and I was just like, nah, I'm good, thanks, I'm not going to read this. And everyone else is how great it is, and I'm just like, I didn't read it.
Yeah, because don't all the goth boys fancy Death from Sandman, don't they? Because she's fit.
So the protagonist in it is called Shadow, and from my understanding, he's the bastard son of Odin. and it sort of started out. He's in a prison cell having a wank, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to read any more.
Mate, he
of this.
just likes to write what he knows, doesn't he? He doesn't assaulting women.
Well,
Tom
it's
was
like in that film with Kevin Bacon in it, where
allegedly he hasn't gone to court for any of this yet, so it's allegedly with
yeah, but
Neil
it's like that film American Beauty, where he's just like he's having a wank in the shower, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see any more of this.
Yeah, I don't really need to see that. So
It's
anyway,
like, look, I know what masturbation is. I don't need to.
Speaking of masturbation, it took Uncle Tom less than a minute to perform. Pierpoint's job as assistant was to follow the prisoner onto the scaffold, bind the prisoner's legs together, and then step back off the trapdoor before the lead executioner sprang the mechanism. Yeah, that'd be a pretty bad first day fail, wouldn't it, if you were stood on the trapdoor?
Oh,
you stood on the trapdoor, fall forward while the prisoners evacuating their bowels. That'd be pretty bad, wouldn't it? When it runs down their leg.
It's sort of first day banter. You've just sort of hobbled their legs together. The trapdoor goes out. Your chin's hanging in between his feet, and then he voids his bowels over your head.
And then you fall on the floor, but your mouth happens to be open, and some drips down his leg.
Oh.
For the remainder of I don't know, we're gonna get another comment from the bloke who watched the Fred West episode.
The Fred and Rose Westberg.
For the remainder of the 1930s, Pierpoint worked in the grocery business and as an assistant executioner. Most of his commissions were with his uncle Tom, from whom Pierpoint learned much. He was particularly impressed with his uncle's approach and demeanour, which were dignified and discreet. He also followed Uncle Tom's advice: if you can't do it without whiskey, don't do it at all. Is that in everything? Is it? Is it? I hope he didn't take the same approach to driving.
Without whisking?
Yeah.
So, what about if he's making a blancmange?
I suppose you could drink the whiskey. I think that'd count.
Oh, if you can't do it without whiskey, don't. Yeah. You said whisking.
No, whiskey.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's what I said about driving.
Yeah, because they did away with giving the condemned a drink before they're deaf, and I'm just like, you know what? The bugger's going to die anyway. You might as well give him a pint of whiskey. Well,
he's only going to void his bowels anyway, so he's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, but it's like giving them their last meal.
Oh,
Have you ever read the...
In July 1940, Pierpoint was the assistant at the execution of Udham Singh, an Indian revolutionary who had been convicted of shooting the colonial administrator Sir Michael O'Dwyer. The day before the execution, Stanley Cross, the newly promoted lead executioner, became confused with his calculations of the drop length, and Pierpoint stepped in to advise on the correct measurements. Pierpoint was added to the list of head executioners soon after. So...
Yeah, because that's the other thing, the rope has got to be of sufficient length that they can build up some speed so the neck can snap. But it's not got to be so long that they're, you don't want their
But I'm pretty sure there's another thing. If you get something else wrong, then the neck stretches and the body falls on the floor and it's pretty messy and nasty. So I'm going to put a picture up here. So this is from the wiki, and it is actually... So this is an X-ray of the cervical spine with the hangman's fracture. So it's specifically called the hangman's fracture.
Is that form of death the same in the films when they show someone twisting their head and they're doing the fatal chiropractic on them?
Well, I can, because it tells you about it now, so if I tell you about it, then you'll understand. So, on October 1941, Pierpoint undertook his first execution as lead executioner when he hanged the gangland killer Antonio Babe Mancini. He followed the routine as established by Home Office guidelines. He and his assistant arrived the day before, blah, blah, blah. where he was told the height and weight of the prisoner. He viewed the condemned man through the Judas hole in the door to judge his build. Pierpoint went on to the execution room, normally next to the condemned cell, where he tested the equipment using a sack that weighed about the same as the prisoner. He calculated the length of the drop using Home Office table. So it's actually a Home Office table of drops, Hobbit.
Like, weighs about the same. Surely they'd want it to be precise and go like, look, he happens to weigh 18 stone 5 ounces, and this bag is like, 18 stone. Well, go and get another 5 ounces then.
Oh, that's working now. There you go. There's the official table of drops. I've just put it in general if you're interested in looking at that.
How morbid.
It fucking is, isn't it? Bit, isn't it? Hanging, I don't even know why I started talking. I was talking about letting him have it with you, weren't I? I think that's how we got onto this.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, so he leaves the weighted sack hanging on the rope to ensure the rope is stretched, and then he readjusts it in the morning if necessary.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So that's why it only needs to be about right, because it just needs to be about right so they can make sure that the rope is stretched.
You don't need to do any of these calculations with the 10-ton weight. You just drop the 10-ton weight on them and they go... and it's also one size fits all. And the other thing as well with it is, like, when the 10-ton weight drops on you, you're dead. There's no, like, oh, it's going to be a slow, lingering death. No, you're dead.
On the day of the execution, the practice was for Pierpoint, his assistant and 2 prison officers to enter the condemned man's cell at 8 a.m. Pierpoint secured the man's arms behind his back with a leather strap, and all 5 walked through a second door which led to the execution chamber. The prisoner was walked to a marked spot on the trapdoor, whereupon Pierpoint placed a white hood over the prisoner's head and a noose around his neck. The metal eye through which the rope was looped and placed under the left jawbone. So the actual so the loop part and the noose is part. So your head's actually flicked sideways, not forward or backwards, Hobbit.
Oh. All right. So in other words, they're doing a fatal neck adjustment.
Yeah. A bit of chiropractic. So when the prisoner drops, forces the head back and breaks the spine, Pierpoint pushed a large lever, relieving the trapdoor. From entering the condemned man's cell to opening the trapdoor took him a maximum of 12 seconds. The neck was broken in almost exactly the same position in each hanging, the hangman's fracture. I'll put a picture of the hangman's fracture up. So the hangman's fracture is, if you know your chiropractic, the C2 is moved forward with respect to the C3. So the C3, if audio listeners, you're not going to get this, but anyone that can see. So the C2, which is the red outline, Hobbit, and that's moved forward with respect to the C3. So that's like if you're an audio listener, so you've got the skull, and then it's the 3rd vertebrae down from the top.
And that causes the spine to snap, and that severs the connection from the spinal cord to the body, and that causes death.
Yeah.
Much like when you ring a chicken or a pheasant by the neck and that they die. I'm not saying it's instant, but pretty much from the moment you hear and feel the neck pop, they're dead.
How about this one? In August, I'm going to skip. He did a load of wartime neck snaps.
Sanctions neck adjustments.
No, I'll actually have to read this Richter guy. So, okay, so December 1941, he executed the German spy Karl Richter at Wandsworth Prison. This is spicy, this one. When Pierpoint entered the condemned man's cell for the hanging, Richter stood up, threw aside one of the guards, and charged head first at the stone wall. Stunned momentarily, he rose and shook his head. After Richter struggled with the guards, Pierpoint managed to get the leather strap around Richter's wrists. He burst the leather strap from eye hole to eye hole and was free again. After another struggle, the strap was wrapped tightly around his wrists. He was brought to the scaffold where a strap was wrapped around his ankles, followed by a cap and noose. Just as Pierpoint pushed the lever, Richter jumped up with bound feet. As Richter plummeted through the trapdoor, Pierpoint could see the noose had slipped and it became stuck under Richter's nose. Despite the unusual position of the noose, the prison medical officer determined that it was an instantaneous clean death. Writing about the execution in his memoirs, Pierpoint called it my toughest session on the scaffold during all my career as an executioner. The broken strap was given to Pierpoint as a souvenir. He used it occasionally for what he thought were meaningful executions. Ooh, that must have been a tough one, though, mustn't it? So the noose slipped up, but he only slipped up. He got caught on his nose, so he basically got hung by the skull, not the neck.
So it still pushed the head back enough to snap it.
Must have done, because they still think it was an instantaneous death.
I am going to say now, my rabbis advised me that is a very anti-Semitic form of execution.
So then 1945, he hung a load of concentration
Also, the ADL are informing me that it is 9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Did you want to finish
and
this,
we need
or do you want to talk about Pierpoint another time?
We need to cease and desist from Ruth Ellis Ginsburg's, heinous murder by the evil anti-Semites of the Keir Starmer regime.
So we got up to naught at 1945 with Henry Pierpoint. So when we have some spare time, we'll finish off Albert Pierpoint.
Where we'll be hanging loose.
And dear old Uncle Tom.
Oh, and so part 2, where we'll be hanging loose.
Yeah, playing fast and loose with the YouTube terms and conditions.
Oh, I don't think we've got to worry about monetization anymore.
we won't be getting any super chats in the future, will we?
You remember registered charity, what was it, 48? Yeah, it was something. It seems an unusual number. But Chairs and Microphones for Racist is accepting donations, and you can gift aid your donate.
It's now, with Hobbit's health concerns, it's now, is it DZT or AZT for racists?
No, I need one of those mobility scooters because I'm infirm, crippled. So I need Motability chairs and microphones. Well, that's it. Wheelchairs and
tricked out ones that you have it.
Well, instead of chairs and microphones are racist.
Spinning rims on yours and a fried chicken.
Well, I was just about to say it's wheelchairs and microphones are racist. Maybe Ricky Berwick can do
wheelchairs and Zimmer frames for racists.
Wheelchairs and suppositories for racists.
Oh. Wheelchairs and prunes for racists.
Oh, I do like some prunes. Yeah. Oh, I want some prunes now.
Anyway, so that's us done. Hobbit's insisted we finish.
No, the ADL are saying we need to cease and desist.
Oh, after the nose hanging.
Yeah, very anti-Semitic. You'll be here from my rabbi.
He was a Nazi.
Well, yeah, but this was the First World War, right? So
no, Second World War.
Oh, yeah, but he could have been part of the tribe. So
no, I don't think so. He was a German spy.
Yeah, but not all of the Germans were like Jews were the default for the Germans in the Second World War, but that is an anti-Semitic canard.
It definitely is.
Don't get hung by your nose.
Yeah. Oh God, that sounds really painful. Wouldn't that just like wrench your skull off or something?
Can you imagine how painful that would be for Susan? Except she's dead now, along with her son, both burning in hell.
That'd just like wrench the top of your head, wouldn't it?
Oh, I could just imagine the noise.
you surely you ended up looking like Britney Spears in that South Park episode.
I'm just imagining it's going to be like a harpoon. The noose can go easily over it, but then it just gets hooked underneath.
Just barb. Just remember, the nose is a barb. Always treat your nose as a barb. Don't
it's like a fish hook.
stick your head in somewhere where the barb's going to get stuck.
That's it. Yeah, it's like a bloody fish hook. It goes in, but you can't come out.
Good job. Neil Gaiman never tried that, wasn't it?
Ugh.
Anyway, good night. If you are thinking about Neil Gaiman tonight, try not to have nightmares.
If you are thinking of hanging, don't.
If you are thinking of Neil Gaiman, don't. He's a bad man, allegedly. He hasn't been to court yet, so it's allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We still think that Neil Gaiman should have his day in court, but we also believe all women, don't we, Hobbit?
Yeah, unless you're. Actually, no, I do believe Ruth Ellis Ginsburg. The child.
To be fair, it weren't Ruth Ellis that pushed for the pardon. It's all other people. Like, she was like, "Yeah, I did it."
No, I do believe her.
I treated him like he was a baby in my womb.
Yeah, it's like, what's the intention with that? I was going to do an abortion on him.
A late-term abortion.
That's it.
Anyway, it's that time.
Yes.
Night all.
Go away now.